Much, Leanne. Now, as 8.2 million young people between the ages of 15 and 34 struggle with unemployment and access to education, government has reiterated its commitment to helping them. Now, in his budget speech this week, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni said that since inception, the Jobs Fund project has created more than 175,000 permanent jobs, and 65% of them went to the youth. Now, launched in 2011, the fund is a national treasury initiative and is part of the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention. So to discuss this further, we're joined now by Victor Nemukula, who is Executive Director at SHUMANI Industrial Equipment. Thanks so much for coming through, Victor.
Thank you very much, Sakina.
Victor, I mean, the numbers are staggering when you look at youth and unemployment figures. But, you know, as someone who is in this particular sector, as an entrepreneur, what is your sense, your assessment of the situation?
I think where we are currently, Sakina, our situation is dire because we are sitting with more than 50%, more than half of our youth who are unemployed at the moment. And the biggest problem that we have is the lack of skills. We haven't invested a lot in the development of our young people. And if you look at where we are currently and what the future holds for us, it means that we're going to have this problem for the foreseeable future.
What about the government interventions that I mentioned in my introduction? Are they actually bearing any fruit?
I think each job that the country produces should be celebrated because one person supports more than 4 people in a household, and the impact of that is huge. But the numbers are simply insignificant compared to the challenges that we face at the moment. So I think a lot needs to be done.
And speaking of challenges, young people are finding it particularly difficult not just to start out, because we talk about employment, but we are told there are no jobs, so they have to innovate, they have to become entrepreneurial. And there are various facets and challenges involved here. So talk to us about your journey to owning 70% of your company now.
It was not an easy journey. The only advantage that I had was that I've had a lot of experience in the corporate sector, and I have gathered a lot of skills. We started off in 2015, starting SHUMANI Industrial Equipment. And when we started, we were targeting mostly public sector contracts or public sector opportunities. It helped us in the beginning. We soon realized that there was a bigger opportunity also in the private sector. The challenges that we had at the time was that we were an unknown entity. We didn't have sufficient skills to compete in that space in the first place. But we soldiered on until we got a big break, initially with one state-owned enterprise, and later we grew into the private sector, and the journey has been nothing short of phenomenal.
And which is why I'm so interested, because research actually shows that most small businesses actually fail within the first year. So speaking to that, you know, what were your experiences in that first year?
It's very challenging. The biggest problem that you have is issues related to cash flow, issues related to funding, because you can have a project, but you need to fund that project. You need to have money coming into the business in order to fund the business going forward. And like I've said before, one of the bigger problems that we have is young people having the skills in order to run their own businesses successfully. I think one advantage that we had, and I think that's an opportunity for young people in our country, is to build partnership with some of the existing companies who have access to skills, and they also have access to capital. It's very expensive and it's a lonely journey.
So with regard to cash flow problems, and you talk about capital, this is one of the issues that consistently comes up top when you ask young people about the challenges that they face in starting small businesses. Where does the funding come from? Where can they go? Where is it proven that they will actually receive help?
It's a tough one. there are opportunities available somewhere in the market, in the financial market. We, as SHUMANI, we were privileged that we partnered with an existing player who believed in our vision. Even when the going was tough, they still believed that we would turn the corner. And if it was not for that, we probably would have faced the similar challenges that many other largely black-owned businesses are facing today. We were able to negotiate favorable terms in terms of us getting access to the capital equipments that we required, and also the bridging finance. But it's a very, very tough journey.
So just a final word of advice to young people. How do they go about actually traversing this path?
Networking is very important. The entrepreneurial space is very tough, but you need to build a relationship with people who've been there in the industry before. Existing companies, they've got a huge pool of skills and capital that young, upcoming black companies can tap into. Without that, it's going to be very difficult.
Well, Victor, we have to leave it there. Victor Nemukula is Executive Director at SHUMANI Industrial Equipment, talking to us about youth unemployment and government's efforts to lower the numbers following the budget speech this week. And of course, there is that breaking news story about the coronavirus, and over to